Hello, I'm Andrew Pearce. This is The Daily Show from the Daily Mail newsroom. Coming up, as the floodwaters continue to rise, the new Environment Secretary George Eustice warns he'll never be able to protect every single household from extreme weather. Martin Freeman, the Sherlock actor, steps into the debate about smacking. He says he smacked his kids, he regrets it, but he might do it again. Do you agree with him? Fashion imposters, what are they? We're going to tell you all about them. We're also going to tell you about super recognisers employed by the police. But first, the fallout from the death of Caroline Flack as ITV prepared to broadcast a tribute to her tonight. Still a debate as to whether the Love Island programme will ever be shown again. Well, there was great shock when it was disclosed that the former Love Island presenter Caroline Flack had been found dead at home. The presenter's death was confirmed by the family. She'd taken her own life. It's led for calls for the flagship show to be axed. Love Island presenter Laura Whitmore led tributes as she posted on Twitter, "I'm trying to find the words, but I can't. I'm next to a broken heart emoji," and posted a poem about loss. Joining me now is Emma Powell, the Daily Mail showbiz correspondent. Emma, we know where we are. Where are ITV on all of this?
So at the moment, obviously they cancelled Saturday night's Unseen Bits show. They cancelled last night's show. It is going to go ahead tonight. They're going to do a tribute to Caroline, they've confirmed. We are waiting for confirmation as to whether After Sun has definitely been cancelled, which is the show that Laura presents after Monday night's instalment of Love Island. It's a live show. Applause Store have been telling people that they will get refund for their tickets. So they won't be able to go tonight. But we're just waiting for confirmation from ITV on that. As far as whether the show carries on after this series ends at the weekend, we still don't know.
ITV under a lot of pressure.
Massive.
Did they neglect their duty of care for a woman who was clearly very troubled? She talked about taking her own life, talking about self-harming. 2 other contestants associated with the show took their own lives. There was also the issue over the Jeremy Kyle show, where a contestant committed suicide. They took that show off air. What's their response?
I mean, we've only had their statement through at the moment, which is essentially, you know, we've been there for Caroline. She was a friend of the family, despite the fact that she obviously stepped down following her arrest last year. It's a difficult one because they did put out this new robust duty of care last year. You know, they offer more therapy sessions now to contestants that have been on the show. You know, they're in contact with them for a lot longer than they were for previous series of Love Island, as an example. But, you know, there's only so much you could probably teach someone about what might happen on social media after they come out. And, you know, you've say, for example, Love Island, you've been in that villa for potentially 8 weeks. You come out and you can have someone give you sessions in how to deal with social media and when not to reply to people, when to sort of not look at comments. But, you know, that's going to be a daily occurrence for some of them.
I think also there's the wrenching away from the family, the feeling of they're in a family, in a community, they're suddenly on their own, and that Caroline Flack would have felt that very painfully. And also she must have been worrying that she'd never get her job back. Yeah,
like I dare say she was worried about that, but...
Well, it's very sad news, very sad story, but we'll continue to keep up to date with the Mail on this. That's Emma Powell, the Daily Mail showbiz correspondent. Now, writing very powerfully in the Mail today, our columnist Sarah Vine shared her thoughts on the tragedy, and she joins me now. Sarah, you say we've got to drain the swamp. You're talking about social media.
Yes, I think so. I mean, I know the government's been trying to put some sort of... They're talking about handing over the policing of social media to Ofcom. I mean, the point about it is that, you know, however bad the sort of tabloid newspapers may be, or however sort of interested in gossipy stories, at the end of the day, they are accountable. You know, if they say something that is not true about you, or if they libel you, or if they have to, you know, they have to take it down and they have to apologize. There are parameters within which they operate. The social media, there's none, because all of these platforms constantly deny that they are publishers, and so they say we're not subject to the rules of publishing, and that's just, you know, A, it's not fair, and B, it has led to the sort of completely out of control landscape that we find ourselves in with trolling. You know, people will do and say anything they want on these platforms, and they have done nothing to police themselves, partly because, of course, you know, that's how they make their money. And it is a sort of absolute sort of spiral to the bottom, and that's the problem.
Do you think, Sarah, the government have said that one of the bills they're going to bring is they're going to try and police social media? Do you think they're deadly serious when we then get threats from Google and others saying, well, we can always go somewhere else?
Well, do go somewhere else. go. I mean, I just think it's about this is a question about what kind of society, what kind of culture you want to live in. Do you want to live in a culture which tries as much as possible to be civilized? Yes, I think is the answer. I think that would be most people's answer, don't you?
I certainly agree.
I mean, I do think in the Caroline Flack case there are other issues.
Of course.
There's the question of why the CPS decided to press ahead with the prosecution when her boyfriend didn't want to press charges, and I think that is probably something to do with this new domestic violence bill, which basically tries to make sure that people are not being coerced into dropping.
All right, so Sarah, we're going to have to move on just because we've run out of time, I'm afraid. Sarah, I made the point, of course, today that domestic violence legislation was brought in by Theresa May's government. It was her flagship piece of legislation, and it was designed to help victims of domestic violence. Ironic, isn't it, that was the legislation that was used to prosecute Caroline Flack. Now, you remember to tell your Alexa speaker to play Daily Mail News, and you'll get the latest newsroom live from Mail Plus. And at 5, you hear the latest Daily Show. Storm Dennis feared to have claimed a 5th victim after a woman was swept away by floodwater in Worcestershire. Britain is still facing more rain, snow and gale force winds. Yesterday, evacuations have been carried out in Haywick as Storm Dennis continued to batter the Scottish borders. Joining me now is Shona Haslam, leader of the Scottish Borders Council. Shona, it's been grim. Is it getting any better?
Yes, Andrew, it's getting much better. So we had a total of 17 flood warnings over the weekend, 3 of which were the most severe flood warnings. Those rivers reached their highest level on SEPA's record, so it's quite a serious event here. We evacuated 2 towns, Hoyk, as you mentioned, and Newcastleton, both had evacuations, but thankfully everyone's safe and well, and there was no casualties.
When are they back home, or are they already on their way back?
We've got housing associations there, but in both towns at the moment, making sure that everybody is rehomed. Some people will be out of their homes for a little while, but we're hoping to get everyone back in nice and in the warm and dry as soon as possible.
Now, in your view, Shona, are people blaming the government because the new Environment Secretary, George Eustice, says, look, governments can't protect every single household from extreme weather? Is he right? But also, has the government done enough?
Well, in these times of climate change, as sea levels are rising and we're seeing more and more rain, these events are going to become more common. And so it isn't going to be possible to protect every single home every single time. And we do have to look at how we manage our planning and managing our flood defences. And it's going to need a huge input from the Scottish Government and the Westminster Government to deal with defending homes. And we need to make sure that we're defending the right homes in the right places and protecting our most vulnerable communities. But climate change continues. This is the reality of the situation.
And if I could ask you just finally, there's talk the government are going to invest more than £1 billion in a new computer, which they say will be able to predict some of these stormy conditions, and that it will almost be a street-by-street guide to which streets should be evacuated. How important will that be for your voters in your part of the world, Shona?
Yeah, it's really important because if we know what streets are at risk, then we can know where to target our resources. One of the areas that we have borders is with snowmelt and the severe weather. Different rivers come from different parts of the hills, and so sometimes it can surprise us which river level rises and which river level doesn't. And so if we had more detailed information, then we could definitely target our resources much more effectively.
All right, that's Shona Haslam. She's the leader of Scottish Borders Council. Let's hope the government doesn't develop the computer, because they're not very good at that, are they? Now, if you enjoy The Daily Show, subscribe to us, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Google or Spotify. One of these days, I'm going to read some of the reviews out, even the unpleasant ones. And if you want to get in touch, email me at dailyshow@mailplus.co.uk or follow us at mailplus. The Sherlock actor Martin Freeman, or you may remember him from The Hobbit, has admitted he smacked his 14-year-old son and 11-year-old daughter, and he often called them little effers when they were younger. He said he'd smacked his children, Joe and Grace, twice, sworn at them more than twice. He says it was a rule at home with his former partner not to do either of the actions to the children, but he says, I've done both. Joining me now is Nigel Higgins, who's founder and writer of Do It Yourself Daddy blog and a father of 5 who lives in Wales, where smacking has just been banned. Nigel, what's your view about Martin Freeman? Should he be clapped off to the courts because he smacked his children?
No, not at all. That would be a little extreme. I mean, I've got 5 children, and I can actually count on one hand how many times I smacked them.
Right.
And it's not something that I ever sort of did, really. There's no real reason. Well, the major reason probably is from my own childhood. I grew up where physical punishment was the norm. So I don't know whether I had a sort of rebel against it and decided that with my own children I would never do that. But none of us are perfect either. So there are moments, definitely, where you are pushed, and kids know how to push the right buttons, don't they?
And, look, and Martin Freeman admitted to only smacking them twice. That one of them's 14, one of them's 11. My parents belted me twice a week.
His parents belted him twice a week.
No, my parents belted me twice a week. I mean, if he only...
Well, yeah, I lost count how many times my father belted me, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
And I think that definitely left... It never made any difference to my behaviour, I don't think, for 1 minute. It made, if anything, it left a very bad taste in my mouth as far as my father was concerned.
Yeah.
And, well, eventually we had no contact. But, I think that was a very dysfunctional family situation anyway, but that's another story altogether.
Yeah.
But, no, I don't think it did me any good. I've always thought, anyway, smacking children quite often just medicine for parents, that it makes you, for that split second, feel better that you've done something to discipline your child.
Yeah.
Whereas, in fact, if you'd taken a step back and thought about maybe why they're kicking off, then you might have been able to do it in a more rational manner.
So those handful of occasions when you smacked your children, Nigel, did you afterwards feel very guilty about it?
Absolutely, 100%. And that's the worst bit, is that even if I rarely shout at them as well, and I like to think that I have got a tone of voice which will give them the idea that I'm serious about something, and my tone of voice will change. But if I do, and I have shouted at them, although I don't swear at them, I don't think I've ever done that, and that's something I make a conscious effort not to do.
Yeah.
Anyway, I
think I was more surprised that Martin Freeman admitted he swore at his kids than actually twice he'd slapped them.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised at that, because I think just, it's not a good language to teach your children at such a young age, and it can be probably quite embarrassing. I would have thought that if your 5-year-old all of a sudden shouts out the F word or something in the middle of the street, it's
where
not
did
good.
Where did they learn that from?
I consciously don't swear. My wife doesn't either. But we don't swear generally in conversation.
No.
So whether that's got a lot to do with it, I don't know. I think I usually try to find a word that is suitable. But if I do shout at them, which I have, especially my twins are 7 years old, my guilt is instant, and I can't help but try and then explain why I shouted, and because they may be crying or whatever, or getting upset, and I've got to give them a cuddle to explain and say sorry as well.
All right, Nigel, thank you for that. That's Nigel Higgins, founder and writer of the Do-It-Yourself Daddy blog. Do read it. Now, coming up, are you too embarrassed to wear those designer clothes you splashed out on? Well, you might be suffering from fashion imposter syndrome. Yes, there really is one. And what is a super recogniser? I'll be speaking to one after we find out what's on TV tonight with Claudia Connell.
Thanks, Andrew. It's the last in the series of Cold Feet tonight on ITV. And it may even be the last ever series, because the writers have hinted at that. So we're going to find out, will Karen and Adam have their happy ending? Their relationship hasn't run smoothly so far. Jenny removing her wig to reveal her hair loss was one of the most moving moments of this series. And tonight she has her first mammogram since her treatment, and we'll find out if she's still cancer-free. You might remember a couple of years ago, the comedian David Baddiel presented a documentary about his father's Alzheimer's. He's got a real gift for taking a harrowing subject matter and making a compelling programme that's not too grim or too heavy-going. Tonight on BBC Two, there's Confronting the Holocaust Denial.
Everything I've read suggests that within the Nazi high command, the extermination of European Jews was their greatest achievement. So why are they covering it up?
David is Jewish, and like many people, he doesn't understand why as many as 1 in 6 people think the Holocaust either didn't happen at all, or if it did, the numbers are hugely exaggerated. So tonight he sets out to look at the reasons behind Holocaust denial and also discover why it's on the increase. And finally, if you love documentaries, then the Storyville series on BBC4 is really consistently good. Tonight's episode is called Fishing for Love, How to Catch a Thai Bride. It's about a small Danish fishing village where 900 Thai women are married to local fishermen. That's 900 women married to lots of different local fishermen, not all married to the same one. 25 years ago, a Thai woman called Samai married one of the fishermen, and ever since then, she's sort of played Cupid, matching impoverished Thai women to lonely Danish fishermen. Obviously, there's huge cultural differences, and the documentary is a really fascinating, sort of heartwarming study of human relationships.
Now, do get in touch by emailing me at dailyshow@mailplus.co.uk. You follow us at mailplus_. Now it's time for a regular city update with Ruth Sunderland, business editor at the Daily Mail. I can't believe this. Laura Ashley, it's her turn now.
Yeah, so Laura Ashley, they are in, shall we say, a spot of trouble at the moment. So they're having to renegotiate their funding, and they need to negotiate a loan in order to carry on trading.
God.
So, that's obviously doesn't sound good, and it's not good. The shares are down very sharply. They're down more than 40% over the past year. So they're pretty much, so in the 90s, they were up there, they were £2 a share. Now they're well under 2 pence. So, that's pretty bad. That's not the kind of discount you want to see in retail,
But in the
is
90s,
it?
everybody had a Laura Ashley blind, Laura Ashley curtains.
I mean, it's a real change, isn't it? So back in the day, I was thinking about this and I thought, well, it's not that floral dresses are not in fashion, because actually there is quite a fashion for floral dresses with clumpy boots and all this kind of thing. But it's just not Laura Ashley floral dresses. And as you say, they're a huge favourite, with Princess Diana. There are famous pictures of her. She wore Laura Ashley when she was pregnant with Prince William. It really was. It was a kind of Sloane Ranger brand. It was quite an aspirational brand, wasn't it?
Yeah, so it's not
and
just
for fashion and for homeware.
So it's not just their part of the decline in the high street. They've just lost they're past their sell-by date.
I mean, that would be my personal view on it.
When did you last buy a Laura Ashley frock?
Do you know what? I was thinking about that, and when I was younger, I had some that I loved.
Yeah.
But not for a very long time.
You'd have to wear it to a 1980s party.
I would.
I'll come.
Mind you, that sounds good.
Yeah, well, I'm coming with you.
That sounds cool.
That's Ruth Sunderland, business editor at the Mail. Now we're in the presence of the big boy now. Sports editor Mark Paget, no less, is here with the latest sports news. Now, Harry Gregg has died.
Yes, Andrew, it's an amazing story, really. He's 87 years old. 1958 Munich air disaster. Harry Gregg's the goalkeeper. He flees the burning wreckage. He's out on the runway and then thinks twice, goes back inside the plane, which is on fire, drags several people to their safety, including Bobby Charlton.
Amazing.
Saved his life. And then 13 days later was playing football again. 13 days after this trauma, playing for Manchester United again.
Did he get an award? Did he get a gong for that?
He did
a bravery gong?
He did get an MBE. He did get an MBE then.
Cool.
But then he didn't then play for Manchester United when they won the European Cup 10 years later. He'd been sold to Stoke 2 years before that, and I don't think him and Bobby got on brilliantly despite that in later life. But then, nice ending to that story. 2 years ago, the 60th anniversary of the Munich air crash, him and Bobby did meet up again at Old Trafford. Bobby went up to him, great to see you, big man. They hugged, and I think basically, reconciled at the end. Now,
Man City, I've been following this one, Mark. Might they actually lose their championship title here because of the financial skullduggery?
They could lose their Premier League title here, but I think it's more likely this 2-year ban just affects the Champions League as we stand. But the Premier League, I think, will just be keeping a watching brief on what happens at the Court of Arbitration for Sport in a couple of months' time, probably. They have to deal with it pretty quickly because next season will be around before we know it. And I think the Premier League will react to whatever the Court of Arbitration for Sport do. If they say you're banned for another year, Premier League might say, you know what, we might take that title off you as well.
Wouldn't that be fascinating? Now, who's going to win the Liverpool match?
I think Liverpool will beat Atletico Madrid over 2 legs, but I don't think it'd be a doddle. And then they might just retain their Champions League trophy.
Score?
Over 2 legs, I'll go 4-2 Liverpool.
We'll hold you to it.
Yes, thank you.
All right, that's Mark Paget. Now, if you want to get in touch, email me at dailyshow@mailplus.co.uk or follow us at mailplus. Now, in the paper today, we have a profile of Community Support Officer Andy Pope, who spotted a record number of suspects. The officer's talents have led to arrests of attempted murderers, thieves and perpetrators of sexual assault. Joining me now to tell us a little bit about what a super recogniser is and how they work is Mike Neville, Chief Executive of the Association of Super Recognisers, who also set up the Super Recogniser Unit for the Met Police. Now, Mike, this sounds like a super recogniser, something out of one of these films on TV with Thor.
Yeah, it does sound very good, doesn't it? The actual name comes from Professor Richard Russell at Harvard University, who was looking at people on the complete opposite side who couldn't even recognise their own face. And he said there must be other people called super recognisers. It's a natural talent. It's people with a natural talent who cannot forget faces. It can be quite embarrassing for some of them. They said other people think they're stalkers because they remember people from years ago.
What, so they could remember a face maybe from 10 years back, Mike? 15?
Even more
Really?
than that. We've got people recognising, kids they played with at school and the like. But from a policing or security or military point of view, the idea that you can identify somebody from who you either want to find or you've got a very old photograph of, whether they're a victim or offender, it's a really useful thing in law enforcement.
How often does the police recognise or the forces realise they've got some in their ranks? I mean, how do you flush them out?
Two ways, really. The first way I did in the Met, because I kept all the records of all the CCTV identifications. I knew how many there had been made. And the other thing is, together with Dr. Josh Davis at Greenwich University, we developed various tests to find them. So there are tests available, and people can do these if they go on the association website. Because some people think that everybody can do it. They don't realise they've got this particular skill, but it's a great skill to have.
And is it something in the brain or in the eye or both?
No, it's in the brain. We know where it is in the brain because we went to America and we did some testing, MRI scans, and we know exactly where it is in the brain. We think it's probably hereditary. You certainly can't be trained to do it. You either got it or you've not. How
important has it been in the war against crime?
Well, at the top end, it was super recognisers who matched the two Novichok assassins, the Russians. They've also been used to identify both victims from the Grenfell Tower and not only victims, but also the people who claim to have been there and are fraudsters. So the super recogniser can say, well, that person's never been in Grenfell Tower. For petty thieves, the highest one we matched somebody to 43 CCTV images. So for burglary, robbery, you can really attack crime. The police are a bit slow to change. That's the only problem with them. There's only a couple of forces using them.
Really? Why?
But it's like everything, the public sector, the police get paid the money whether they solve crime or not. You've got some forward-thinking forces like the City of London. You've got the Met with the super recognisers. West Midlands are obviously making use of Andy, but who else in the West Midlands has got this skill? They need to get a grip. That's the thing. I was in the police a long time, and I know what they're like.
Mike, you've got to crack the whip, and we'll help you do it. That's Mike Neville, Chief Executive of the Association of Super Recognisers. Shameful. Only 2 police forces using them. Research reveals a third of us, it's not me, experience fashion imposter syndrome. British style expert Shane Watson writes in the paper today that designer bags are too good for her as she reflects on her purchases while discussing how to practice better shopping. Now, here to explain what it all means is Francesca Spector, freelance fashion journalist and until recently, deputy editor of Yahoo Style. If I'm right, Francesca, this means somebody's got a designer frock or a designer handbag and they feel guilty about it. Is that right?
That's it, yes. I mean, these things cost a lot of money. You can buy a handbag and it might cost the same as a car. So you might be buying a Marlborough Bayswater for £900 or a classic Chanel bag for, £2,500.
How much? How much?
£2,500.
Oh, my God, really? No wonder they feel guilty. It's not guilt they should feel. They should be having a mental faculty test. 2,500.
Well, yes, they're status symbols.
Right.
Just like a car.
Okay. Yeah, but 4 people can get in a car, or at least 2 can get in a car. How much can you put in a £2,500 handbag?
Well, not very much, but you can carry it every day.
Right.
Unless, of course, you don't feel authentic doing so. And then that's where the waste comes in. That's where the fashion imposter syndrome comes in.
Do you know, a girlfriend of mine was bought, Francesca, a £2,500 designer handbag. She took it out once with me. She sold it. Or she sold it on eBay or somewhere. She got quite a lot for it. No, she took it to a very upmarket second-hand fashion shop because she said, it's just not me. So I guess she was a victim of this syndrome.
Yes, although at least she
hadn't
went
spent her
on
money.
and sold it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Do you feel any guilt over some of the fashion stuff you wear, Francesca?
I do. If I'm honest, this is a complete habit of mine. I have some of my nicest items of clothing or certainly handbags stuck in the back of my wardrobe.
Really?
And I just think, when can I carry them? What situation will be worthy of that? What will people think?
I suppose if you go to a fashion show or a red carpet show, it's going to look great and in keeping. But if you're going to go down the pub in Peckham, probably not a good look.
Absolutely. I think, yes. I mean, there's obviously, you're worried to take it out. You're worried it might get ruined, it might get stolen, whatever. But, I think also we have this very Sunday best mentality towards our designer clothing, and somehow the Sunday never comes.
Yeah. Let me ask you a personal question, Francesca. What's the most expensive handbag you've ever had?
Well, if I'm honest, have one of those Chanel handbags. It doesn't quite cost $2,500, but it does cost almost $1,000, I think.
Right.
And it's been used a lot.
Good.
In all fairness, I've had it for about a decade, and I've used it almost every time I go out. But still, I take it out and I do look at it and think, wow, this could be a car.
All right, that's Francesca Spector. Thank you for being so honest. That's freelance journalist, and until recent, she was deputy editor of Yahoo Style. Now, the Duchess of Cambridge has revealed for all three of her births she used a self-hypnosis technique that actually meant, quotes, she quite liked labour. Now, hypnobirthing uses controlled breathing, visualisation and meditation to keep women relaxed during birth and minimise pain. It's become increasingly popular among mothers-to-be seeking a drug-free birth. Joining me now is Tamara Chanfini, who's founder of The Wise Hippo. Tamara, there's huge interest in what the Duchess had to say in this blog she did. How important is it that she's talking out about this sort of thing?
Very important. We have been, well, on behalf of everyone in the whole hypnobirthing community, we have been waiting for years to hear about her birth experience because, of course, there was a lot of speculation in the beginning. A lot of magazines and newspapers had reported that she had done hypnobirthing. But it's just one of those things, isn't it? Until you actually hear it out of somebody's mouth, then you actually know that it was true. And finally, after all this time, she's come out now and said that she did have 3 amazing hypnobirths and also used it for morning sickness as well.
Which we know she suffered with very badly. Now, why is it important? Was there some view before that hypnobirthing was some form of modern quackery and it needed somebody like the Duchess, who's in the public eye, my God, is she in the public eye, to speak out in its favour?
I think so, yeah. I mean, it definitely normalises it. And I think the issue with hypnobirthing all along has probably been the name. I think it makes it sound like something that it's not, hypnobirthing. So absolutely, having somebody like the Duchess of Cambridge and a lot of other celebrities that are using it currently as we speak. I've trained recently 3 of the girls that were on Towie, Fern McCann and Danielle Armstrong and Sam Fairs. They're all using it, and I don't really look at them as being hippie type women. They're very much out there and very outspoken on social media. So it's definitely becoming more normal. And the fact that midwives and everything are now teaching it as well, it's a normal choice.
Tamara, so for the woman, do they teach themselves how to sort of self-hypnotise? Is there a textbook they follow? How do they do it?
Yeah, I mean, they do get a book to support their learning.
Yeah.
But what they will do is they will listen to MP3s throughout their pregnancy.
Yeah.
That will help them change their mindset and give them. And so that they start looking at birth in a more positive way. So a lot of women that maybe have come to hypnobirthing, maybe have had previous traumatic births or even first-time couples that really don't know anything about birth, it's an entire education program that very much focuses on birth being a normal, I'm not going to say a natural event, although a lot of women do come to hypnobirthing because they want to have a natural birth, but it's not about having a natural birth. It's about having the right birth on the day and being in control and being calm so you can make informed decisions along the way.
And just finally, very briefly, Tamara, would she still have suffered the pain of labour?
I think only she can say that.
Right.
But pain is very subjective.
Okay.
if you hurt yourself and if I hurt myself, we're going to feel it in two very different ways. It all depends on what you're focusing on at the time, depends on how you're going to experience pain.
Right. Fascinating.
And in hypnobirthing, we never say hypnobirthing will give you a pain-free birth.
Right.
Because we don't know that. We don't have a crystal ball. Curveballs can be thrown into the mix along the way. But if you come out of that experience saying that you had the right birth on the day and you felt calm and in control, no matter what happens, and that you feel positive about your birth afterwards, that's the most important thing.
All right. Thanks, Julie. That's Tamara Chanfani, who's the founder of The Wise Hippo. Well, that's all we've got time for today. For the latest from the Daily Mail News, we come back every day for briefings at 7 a.m, 12 noon, and of course 5 p.m, where you can listen to me all over again. That's all from me, Andrew Pearce, from The Daily Show. I'll be back tomorrow. Have yourselves a great evening and good night.